Hello, good morning, everyone. Today we are studying gynecological imaging. Firstly, normal radiological anatomy of uterus. It is a pear-shaped structure, varies in size. Before puberty, cervix is large and body of uterus is small. After puberty, uterus size increases to 7 to 8 centimeter. After menopause, involute to 5 to 6 centimeter. Here you can see a pear-shaped uterus, and the pointer is towards the endometrium lining. Next, uterus may be retroverted or anteverted, retroflexed or antiflexed. There is difficulty in seeing the fundus if uterus is retroverted or retroflexed. On MRI T2W images, endometrium is of high signal intensity. This is normal pediatric endometrium. Sagittal ultrasound imaging of the uterus in a 2-year-old girl demonstrates a thin endometrium. The pointer is towards the endometrium. Sagittal ultrasound image of the uterus obtained during menstruation shows a thin endometrium. Then sagittal ultrasound image of the uterus obtained during the late proliferative phase of the menstrual cycle demonstrate the endometrium with a multi-layer appearance. Sagittal ultrasound image of the uterus obtained during the secretory phase of the menstrual cycle shows a thickened echogenic endometrium. Endometrium is considered abnormal if it measures more than 14 mm in premenopausal and more than 4 mm in postmenopausal women. On USG, endometrium is of high echogenicity. At the start of follicular phase of menstrual cycle, it is thin echogenic line. From day 8 to 10 of menstrual cycle, endometrium thickness and become 5-layered at mid-cycle. In the luteal phase, endometrium loses its 5-layered appearance and become progressively more echogenic with normal thickness of 1.2 to 1.4 centimeters. Then coming to myometrium, myometrium is hypoechoic on ultrasound. On MRI T2W images, the layer of myometrium just below the endometrium is of low signal intensity and the remaining myometrium is of intermediate signal intensity. The zonal anatomy with differentiation between the high intensity endometrium, low intensity junction, and that is pointer, and intermediate intensity outer myometrium is well seen. T2 weighted MR images shows the normal endometrium, pointer is that's straight arrow, and junctional zone, that is curved zone. Parametrium is hypoechoic on ultrasound and on MRI T1W intermediate signals and increase in signals on T2W. Then cervix. Cervix is cylindrical shaped structure 2 to 4 centimeter connecting with body of uterus at internal os. Normal uterus on transabdominal ultrasound, longitudinal scan through the urine-filled bladder demonstrate a normal adult uterus with smooth contour, pear shape, and well-defined bright endometrial echo. That is open arrow, and the cervix is recognized as the junction of imaginary line drawn through the long axis of the uterus and the long axis of the vagina. That is between the arrowheads. This uterus is anteverted. Then transvaginal sonogram in early pregnancy showing a normal cervix. Arrow is pointed toward the internal and external os. Transabdominal sonogram showing a normal cervix. You can compare. Vaginal radiological anatomy. On ultrasound, vaginal is visualized as 2 linear hypoechoic muscular walls around an echogenic mucosa. On MRI T2W images, vagina has a high signal central zone of mucus and epithelium surrounded by low signal muscular wall. This is the imaging. Normal vagina seen in the axial plane. T2W weighted shows the vagina as an intermediate intensity tube between the bladder base anteriorly and rectum posteriorly. Ovary. These are oval structure lying in relation with the internal iliac vessels on the pelvic side wall. They are less echogenic than the uterus, may contain variable number of follicles or cysts. This is the radiological image of ovary with follicles. In menstruating women, its volume should be normally less than 7.5 ml, and in postmenopausal women, not It should be not more than 3 mm. Ovulatory cycle. At start of follicular phase, few number of follicles start to develop. From day 8 to 10, one follicle becomes dominant and continues to grow at a rate of 2 to 3 mm per day. About mid-cycle, it measures 18 to 25 mm. After ovulation, corpus luteum can be seen as irregular cyst containing internal echoes due to blood or hypoechoic area. On Doppler studies, during menstruation and early follicular phase, high impedance flow resistance index approx 0.7. Following neovascularization and corpus luteum development, diastolic flow increases leading to low impedance flow and resistance less than 0.6. Doppler indexes in postmenopausal are of high resistivity index. Color Doppler ultrasound scans show abundant flow in the wall of the corpus luteum, as there is neovascularization. Ovaries are best seen in transverse or coronal planes. They measures above 1.5 to 3 cm in diameter. Ovary shows low to intermediate signal intensity similar to muscle on T1W and low signals on T2W. This is an axial T2 weighted magnetic MRI of pelvis. This image reveals multiple subcapsular follicles in both the ovaries. Follicles are seen which are of low to intermediate signals on T1W and high signals on T2W. On T1W images, difficulty arises in differentiating ovaries from bowel and uterus. After IV gadolinium, normal ovaries enhances. Then congenital uterine anomalies. The upper two-thirds of the vagina, uterus, and fallopian tube develop from the fusion and descent of paired Mullerian ducts. The lower third of the vagina is derived from the urogenital sinus. Partial or complete failure of the ducts to fuse result in spectrum of complex abnormalities. These are the various abnormalities. First is hyperplasia agenesis, second unicornuate, third didelphus, fourth biconnuate, fifth septate, sixth arcuate, seventh stilbestrol drug related. A unicornuate uterus. Unicornuate uterus result from complete or incomplete arrest of development of one Mullerian duct. This is a T2 weighted image shows a laterally deviated banana-shaped uterus. No rudimentary horn could be detected. Biconnuate uterus. Biconnuate uterus result from partial non-fusion of the Mullerian duct. Double uterine bodies and a single cervix are present. And arcuate uterus is considered a milder form of biconnuate uterus. It has convex or flat external fundal contour and mild impression of the endometrial cavity. Biconnuate bicollis is a variant of biconnuate uterus in which the anomaly is combined with the muscular uterine septum that extend to external os. This is image of biconnuate uterus. Then septate uterus, in it, uterine septum fails to resorbs, resulting in failure of correct placental implantation and subsequent miscarriage. This is an incomplete septum. The outer fundal contour is flat or slightly concave, which is sufficient to make the diagnosis of septate uterus. This is an image of didelphys uterus. Complete separation and full development of both Mullerian ducts is noted. Two vaginas, two cervix. Second is two distinct cervix, and third is two uterine horn are widely spayed, and fourth is cross section of the uterine body and cervix. In biconnuate uterus, the midline uterine external fundal cleft has depression greater than 1 centimeter, excluding septate uterus from the differential diagnosis. This image is of biconnuate bicollis, since two cervixes are present. Then normal uterus, note a single uterine cavity and flat or convex uterine fundal contour. And septate uterus, midline septum can be variable length and can be muscular or fibrous. In the diagram, the septum is shown as an extension of the uterine myometrium. Biconnuate uterus, note the partial fusion of the lower uterine segment and persistently separated upper uterine segment. The importance is the prominent fundal cleft, which is more than 1 centimeter, which distinguishes the anomaly from the septate uterus. This is uniconvate uterus, and complete separation but full development of each Mullerian duct. This is arcuate uterus, mild thickening of the midline fundal myometrium resulting in fundal cavity indentation, but normal uteral fundal control. Then diethyl stilbestrol exposed uterus, myometrial hypertrophy result in T-shaped uterine cavity and cavity irregularity, which is pathognomonic for the anomaly. Typically, the uteri are hypoplastic. Then hematometra and hematocolpus. What are the causes? Primary amenorrhea, which lead to primary amenorrhea, cyclic abdominal pain, pelvic pain, severe dysmenorrhea. Ultrasound reveals a thick wall, cystic mass, either due to obstructed vagina. USG reveals a thick walled cystic mass, either due to obstructed vagina or obstructed uterus with low level internal echoes due to blood. Transverse vaginal septum. Sagittal T2 weighted shows a transverse septum in the middle of the vagina, causing dilatation of proximal vagina and uterus. This is a typical image of hematocolpus and hematometra. This is image of obstructed hymen. Sagittal T1 weighted spine echo image shows a dilated hematometrocolpus. The obstruction is at the level of perineum. This is image of hematometrocolpus in a 12-year-old girl with abdominal pain. Sagittal ultrasound image demonstrate a markedly distended vagina and uterine cavity. This is ultrasound imaging of hematocolpus. MRI shows a blood-filled vagina. High incidence associated with single kidney. Kidney show congenital absence of left kidney. MRI is the technique of choice in assessment and evaluation of congenital lesion. Then uterine abnormalities, uterine fibroid. Some mucosa arise with these are divided into three. That is first submucosa, second mural, and third is subserosal. First submucosa that is arise within cavity and distorted. Mural may or may not distort cavity, depends on precise location. And third is subserosal, cause bulge on the surface of uterus. This is the imaging. Intercavitary, intramural, pedunculated fibroid, submucous, and subserosal. This is the MRI. On ultrasound, most fibroids are round, well-defined, hypoechoic masses with characteristic internal architecture showing recurrent shadowing. Non-degenerating fibroids have uniform signal intensity indistinguishable from myometrium on T1 weighted images and with lower signal on T2W images. Degenerating fibroids show variable and non-specific signal appearance with an intermediate to high signal on T1W and high signal on T2W images. Malignant transformation can not be differentiated from degenerating fibroids. Pointers towards the enlarged uterus with fibroids. MR shows the cross-section of fibroid in the lower uterus. Note the mass effect on the bladder, which is located anteriorly, that causes the pressure symptoms. This is image of calcified fibroid. Another image. This is a CT of calcified fibroid. And this is ultrasound. And this is a coronal plane of MR fibroid. This is sagittal's image. This is sagittal T2 weighted MRI shows a large heterogeneous fundal uterine fibroid. This is a image of submucosal fibroid. This is a transabdominal sagittal sonogram shows a heterogeneous but predominantly hypoechoic posterior uterine fibroid. This is a case of young adult female patient with relatively large submucous fibroid bulging into the uterine cavity. This is an image of pedunculated fibroid, which is on the surface. The cervical fibroids are rare, which accounts for less than 5%. They can be hyperechoic and may be calcified, particularly in postmenopausal women. Degeneration within fibroid appear as an area of increased echogenicity or irregular cystic areas. Then coming to endometrium hyperplasia, if premenopausal more than 1.4 centimeter and postmenopausal women more than 4 mm ET. This is the USG and MR of postmenopausal endometrium atrophy. This is a major endometrial hyperplasia. US imaging shows an endometrium with diffuse thickening, maximum of 1.74 centimeter due to hyperplasia. These are the lines. Then coming to the ovarian pathologies, polycystic ovary, large ovaries, volume more than 7.5 mm, more than 2 to 5 mm follicle, mainly peripheral distribution, increased stroma, large or normal uterus, thick endometrium. Numerous peripheral follicles and hyperechoic stroma in the image, and note that the none of the follicle is larger than 1.2 centimeter. This is image of multifollicular ovary. The size of uterus and ovary normal, several follicles of 5 to 10 mm, no increased stroma. Primary ovarian failure, size of uterus and ovary small, no follicle seen and no increased stroma. Then simple adnexal cyst, most commonly functional in origin. Differentials are paraovarian cyst, endometrioma, hydrosalpinx, neoplastic cyst, and peritoneal cyst. This is an image of 3.5 centimeter simple ovarian cyst, normal appearing ovarian tissue with a few follicles around the periphery, confirms the ovarian origin of the cyst. This is another image. This is corpus luteum within the ovary. It has slightly thick crenulated wall and a small cystic center. This image. Now, anechoic lesion with posterior acoustic enhancement, thin smooth walls and no solid part, unilocular and simple follicular cyst. No flow on color Doppler. This is image of hemorrhagic cyst, retracted clot, asterisk with concave margin along the wall of hemorrhagic cyst. No echogenicity. Hemorrhagic cyst is a complex cyst mass within the periphery of the ovary. The seemingly solid area within the cyst mass has concave margin and no demonstrable flow, both typical feature of clot. Hemorrhagic cyst complex, so it's also complex ovarian cyst with a seemingly solid area due to clot, and this could be mistaken for the solid area of neoplasm as there is no flow on color Doppler. There is a reticular or fishnet pattern to the internal echos due to fibrin strand. Arrow are marked, and now the fibrin strands are thin. And ruptured cyst, right adnexa shows, in the picture, right adnexa shows a thick-walled ovarian cyst, corpus luteum, with surrounding anechoic free fluid, a finding indicative of rupture. And the differential is ectopic, rupture ectopic. This is an image of endometrioma. Endometrioma is complex ovarian cyst with homogeneous internal echos. It contains a small solid appearing area. On color Doppler did not demonstrate flow in the solid area. This is an imaging of dermoid cyst. It is a mature cystic teratoma complex ovarian cyst with low-level internal echoes and markedly hyperechoic solid appearing area. This is the imaging of left ovarian cyst of dermoid. Then coming to tubo-ovarian abscess. This is image of endovaginal sonogram. The image shows an echoic tubular structure in the adnexal area. The finding is compatible with the hydrosalpinx. Endovaginal ultrasound of an echoic tubular structure in the adnexa, and the findings also compatible with the hydrosalpinx. This is an image of biosalpinx, pus field cavity. This is an image of hydrosalpinx tubular structure, cystic mass with septum, some nodules which are pointed, and the mass and due to thickened endosalpinx fold. This is an image of oophorytis, shows a relatively enlarged right ovary, increased flow on color Doppler, and small amount of adjacent free fluid. This is a normal scan. Uh, this is a heterogeneous and thickened endometrium, a finding that is compatible with endometritis. This is an image of para-ovarian cyst. You can see the normal ovary and the anechoic area. That is a para-ovarian cyst. Then coming to the simple cyst diagnostic approach, low risk and high risk. Low risk simple cyst is less than 3, simple cyst 3 to 5 and 5 to 7 and more than 7. Further MRI and surgical evaluation is required. High risk may simple cyst less than 2, further categorized in 2 to 7 and more than 7 centimeter. These are the imaging. The septation is more than 3 mm, mural nodularity, papillary projection, and frank solid component. These are high risk, and these most probable diagnosis towards the neoplasia. Differentiation of benign and malignant ovary tumor. On color Doppler ultrasound shows a very low impedance flow within the wall, which indicates an ovarian tumor. Then coming to ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. Ovarian hyperstimulation is enlarged left ovary with the multiple adjacent simple cysts in a patient undergoing in vitro fertilization. Histocontrast of sonography. Hysterosalpingography contrast sonography, usually shortened to HYCOSIS, is a simple and well-tolerated outpatient ultrasound procedure used to assess the patency of the fallopian tubes as well as detect the abnormality of the uterus and endometrium. This is the imaging of hysterosalpingography. There is a catheter and we have to push the dye. The test uses Levovist, a non-iodic contrast agent. Levovist is a microparticle suspension consisting of 99.9% galactose and 0.1% palmitic acid. The procedure is a safe and reliable alternative to the conventional hysterosalpingogram, which uses X-rays. No radiation or iodinated contrast material is used for hysterocosis. It is a 3D image of uterus and endometrial cavity during the hysterocosis. This is the contrast. This is the image of endometrial polyp in 33-year-old woman. Sonohysterogram in transverse plane shows solitary, smooth, well-defined, uniformly echogenic intercavity lesion, angle of which lesion with underlying endometrium is acute. This is color flow on Doppler. This is case scenario with endometrial cancer in 57-year-old woman.